Welcome back to Soulfire Election Debates. I am Catherine Swamer, substituting for Mr. John Depew today. Today we will be meeting the candidates for mayor. Mr. Theodore Tomowski with the Democratic Party, our incumbent, Dr. Richard O'Neill with the Republican Party, and Mr. Vinny Pasquantino with the Independent Party. Mr. Tomowski, your opening statement.
I would like to thank Ms. Catherine Swamer for substituting as our debate moderator today, and I would like to thank the Democratic Party for sponsoring my campaign. I'd like to thank my my opponents for running against me and trying to improve Soulfire as well.
Dr. O'Neill, your opening statement.
First off, I would like to thank our moderator, Ms. Swamer, for the awesome questions she's going to ask, and I also like to thank my fellow Republicans in the party for the
Mr. Pasquantino, your opening statement.
Well, first off, I'd like to thank the Independent Party for their help in this campaign for me to be elected mayor. Thank you, guys. And secondly, I would like to thank our interim debate moderator, Catherine Swamer. It's people like this in the city of Soulfire that step up when we need them the most when Mr. Depew is not here. This is why I love the city of Soulfire, because of people like Catherine.
Thank you. Okay, our first question is for Mr. Theodore Tomowski. Mr. Tomowski, drug trafficking has become a huge problem in Soulfire courts. How do you plan to stop this illegal activity and make Soulfire a safer place for our children?
Well, Soulfire's big port is a huge part of our economy. Unfortunately, it also does present the opportunity for smugglers to bring in drugs. I think what we really need to do is get federal help from the Coast Guard and have them control the waters, because the city of Soulfire simply does not have the funds to compete with drug cartels.
Dr. O'Neill?
I'm personally for most drugs, most herbal drugs, but I'm against synthetic drugs. So I feel like I would try my best to get marijuana and that kind of stuff legalized in our city. And then also, I would also like to agree with my fellow opponent by saying that we should get the Coast Guard to help us.
Okay, Mr. Pasquantino?
Well, first off, talking about drug trafficking is a big issue in this city. And I've been working with one of my close personal friends, Dalton Lackey, on this subject. And one of the ways we've decided to help with drug trafficking is not to patrol the waters with Coast Guard, because that looks suspicious on our part. And then the smugglers will get more and more tricky, and that's going to be tough for us. So the way we have kind of gone at this is with undercover cops, because we feel like if we can bring in people who can act like they're working on the ships and try to find out what's going on, we can stop these people from smuggling drugs into our great city of Soulfire.
Mr. Tomowski, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
All right, I would like to reply to Mr. Pasquantino. He said that the Coast Guard vessels wouldn't be working, and yet I feel they most definitely would. He said undercover police on the ships would be a good idea. However, Soulfire police officers have no jurisdiction in international waters, so if those ships were to leave go on an international trip and bring drugs on board, we would have no purpose to put our police officers in danger like that, because they are such a valuable resource to us. I don't think it would be a good idea to put them undercover in that kind of danger.
Okay, thank you. Dr. O'Neill, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Well, like I said, I do agree with the fact that we should have the Coast Guard patrolling the bay and everything like that. Then again, we should also allow the marijuana and that kind of stuff just to eradicate the problem. If it's not illegal, then there's not going to be any drug trafficking through the city. So,
Mr. Pasquantino?
I would like to respond back at Mayor Tomowski. I think you may have heard me misspeak there for a second. I did not specify that the Coast Guard boats would not work. I'm just saying they would look suspicious to the drug traffickers, and I just don't think that that could be a very good idea to bring Coast Guard into it. And also, I was not talking about the city of Soulfire police officers. I did not specify. I'm talking about bringing people in who have jurisdiction under international waters to stop this very, very bad issue.
Is for Dr. Richard O'Neill. As mayor, do you see any programs that should be eliminated to allow funding for other programs that would make Soulfire the city the voters want it to be?
Yes, I do. I believe that the organic farming should be cut out, drastically be cut out, but not the farms themselves. I said we should make a development farm for organic farming, so cheaper farming. So we find ways to make organic farming more efficient, yet easier, more cheaper. Instead of we delete a corporation and then just create a new one that develops a new one.
Okay, Mr. Pasquantino?
Will you repeat the question for me?
Yes. As mayor, do you see any programs that should be eliminated to allow funding for other programs that would make Soulfire the city the voters want it to be?
Well, if the voters want it to be a change, then I'm all for it. Just tell me what you want to do, but I don't think right now is a very good time to be cutting things out of our budget, because I feel like I just don't think anything should be cut right now. That's how I feel.
Okay. And Mr. Smatsky?
Well, first let me start off by saying, Mr. Pasquantino, public funding is people's tax money. Private funding is not. From the previous question. Furthermore, I think that the time is not to cut right now. I think, if anything, we should be increasing. Recently, there was a crisis in the United States economy, a huge recession, but Soulfire stayed strong, and I think now is the time to grow our city rather than to start cutting.
Okay. We now have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Mr. O'Neill?
So let me say my plan for changing our field in the organic farming. Like I said, we're going to cut all of the farming that's being done. We're not going to have these big, huge farms that we have growing the organic farms and stuff. However, we're going to have the development farm that will create new, efficient ways that are cheaper, so we can better our city, can better America as a whole. So, which betters Soulfire as well.
Mr. Pasquantino?
Well, to Dr. O'Neill, I would just like to say I feel like if we cut some of the budget, it might not be the best thing for the city of Soulfire. And also to Mayor Tomowski, some of us say stupid things sometimes that we get confused on. For instance, not naming our kids. But that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Pasquantino. Mr. Tomowski?
All right, Mr. O'Neill, I still have no idea what your plan is, but farming is not under the jurisdiction of the mayor's office. We don't control all the farming. This isn't like some kind of communist society where we get to be in charge of that. It's a private company, so we really don't get to decide what happens there.
Pasquantino? If elected mayor, what will be the most significant problem you would address in Soulfire?
The most significant problem I would definitely face would be drug trafficking. As you know, I'm very passionate about this subject, and we went through our ideas earlier in this debate. With those ideas, I believe that I can fully stop drug trafficking in the city of Soulfire. It is a very, very bad issue that does not need to take place and will not take place if I am elected mayor.
Mr. Tomowski?
Well, I think the most significant thing we can deal with in office is not so much drug trafficking, although I understand that is important and some of us have even lost loved ones to the issue. I think we need to deal with education. If people learn not to use drugs, there won't be a market for drugs. The drug trafficking will go away. People won't bring in drugs if there's no one to buy them. So I think we need to focus on education, and I think that will also bring people out of poverty and develop our economy as well.
And Dr. O'Neill?
One thing that we'll definitely be working on if I get elected into office is the legalization of marijuana. So instead of having people dying and everything, if we have a very lowered amount of marijuana that's being allowed, people won't die from it. It's not going to be overdose or anything like that. That's not going to be.
Mr. Pasquantino, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
All right, I'm going to go back to Mayor Tomowski here. And I would just like to point out that drugs are an issue in society now, and whether you tell kids not to do them or you tell them to do them, they're going try to do what they can to maybe not do what you say. And I feel like getting rid of drug trafficking is a very important issue for our society.
Okay. Mr. Tomowski?
Mayor Pasquantino is entirely correct that the issue of drugs is a serious one. However, I disagree on his plan to stop them. The cartels have so much funding, millions and millions of dollars that come from selling drugs, and the city of Soulfire can't afford to invest that much into combating them because they'll keep fighting back. The best way is to cut the market for it. If you just tell children, don't do drugs, it may not work, but I do believe there's a solution through educating them, because most drug use is caused by people who don't really know the harmful effects.
Okay. Dr. O'Neill?
First off, let me say I did not say people should do drugs. I said it was allowed to happen. So let me clarify that.
Mrs. Catherine Swimmer for filling in for Mr. Depew. I'd like to thank the Democratic Party for sponsoring my campaign. I'd like to thank Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Pasquantino for their wonderful candidacies, and thank you all.
Dr. O'Neill?
I would first like to thank, from the wonderful questions from Ms. Swimmer, the moderator, and I also would like to thank the Republican Party and the O'Neill Foundation. And I would also like to say good luck to my opponents. And finally, thanks to all my loyal voters and those who are not voters, I'd like to say, remember, a vote for luck is a vote with luck.
And Mr. Pasquantino?
I would really like to thank you, Ms. Catherine Zwaymer, for filling in on this fine sunny day. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank the Independent Party for their support of me. So thank you guys. Y'all are the best. I would like to thank my two opponents, Mayor Tomowski and Dr. O'Neill. Thank you for your time.
That concludes our series of debates with the candidates for the Soulfire's election. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you.